Welcome back to my channel Knowledge Chronicle.
Have you ever wondered how life exists in the cold of Antarctica, the dryness of deserts, the depths of oceans, or even inside your body? Today we'll explore how organisms interact with their environment, survive in extreme conditions, and evolve amazing adaptations. This isn't just about survival. It's about the brilliance of biology and the beauty of life on Earth. Let's dive deep into the topic. Organism and its environment. At the simplest level, ecology studies how individual organisms relate to their environment. This includes how they survive, grow, and reproduce. This level is often called physiological ecology because it focuses on how body systems adapt to external conditions. And these conditions change regularly. The Earth's rotation around the sun and its tilted axis create seasonal changes in temperature and daylight, leading to the formation of biomes like deserts, rainforests, tundra, and more. Even within these biomes, local variations create a wide range of habitats, from rain-drenched forests of Meghalaya to the frozen peaks of the Himalayas, and from deep-sea trenches to stinking compost pits. Life exists even in extreme places. Scorching deserts of Rajasthan, frozen permafrost in the poles, boiling thermal springs, deep ocean vents, and, well, even your own intestines, which are home to countless microbes. So, a habitat isn't defined by just one factor. It's actually shaped by both abiotic and biotic components. Now, abiotic factors include things like temperature, water, light, and soil. And biotic factors include pathogens, parasites, competitors, and predators. So, an organism's ability to thrive in a habitat really depends on how well it has adapted to both abiotic and biotic conditions over time. Through natural selection. And together, an organism's range of tolerance, the resources it uses, and its ecological role. All of these things actually form its niche. Alright, let's explore each abiotic factor in detail. Temperature is, honestly, the most crucial environmental factor. So it actually varies a lot. Like, it's sub-zero in the poles, goes above 50 degrees Celsius in deserts, and can even be over 100 degrees Celsius in hydrothermal vents. Temperature, it really influences the rate of enzyme activity, metabolism, and all sorts of physiological functions. Some organisms are pretty flexible, like euthermal ones, which can tolerate wide temperature ranges. Cockroaches are a good example. On the other hand, there are stenothermal organisms like polar bears that can survive only in really narrow temperature ranges. This is why, snow leopards are never seen in Kerala, and mangoes just don't grow in Canada. And with climate change and rising global temperatures, the natural distribution of many species is actually under threat. Water is honestly essential for all life. Deserts have very limited water. Only organisms with special adaptations can survive there. So in aquatic systems, the main challenge isn't really about having enough water, but more about its quality, things like salinity and pH. Freshwater usually has salinity less than 5 parts per thousand. Seawater, on the other hand, ranges from 30 to 35 parts per thousand. And then you have hypersaline lagoons, which can go all the way up to 100 parts per thousand. When it comes to organisms, there are euryhaline species like salmon that can tolerate a wide range of salinity. And then there are stenohaline organisms, such as most freshwater fish, which can survive only in one type of water. So, osmotic stress is actually a pretty big issue. Freshwater animals just can't survive in seawater, and well, the other way around too. Light is absolutely critical for autotrophs, like plants, since they need it to perform photosynthesis. Some forest plants actually grow under really low light conditions, while others need specific photoperiods or light durations to flower. So, animals also use light cues for migration, reproduction, and feeding. It's actually fascinating how light can play such a big role in their daily lives. In deep oceans, sunlight doesn't reach at all. There, organisms rely on chemosynthesis, using chemicals from volcanic vents to survive. It's pretty wild how life adapts in such extreme conditions. Among marine algae, red algae survive. The deepest brown algae are found at mid-depth, and green algae stay near the surface. each type has its own way of making the most out of the available light. Soil properties can really vary a lot depending on the region. And these differences actually affect what kinds of plants can grow there. And, well, those plants then support specific animals that are adapted to that environment. So the thing is, soil itself depends on several factors like climate, grain size, water retention, pH, and mineral content. All of these play a role in shaping the soil's characteristics. In aquatic environments, it's actually the characteristics of the sediment that decide which bottom-dwelling or benthic animals are able to thrive there. So, what happens when environmental conditions become too harsh? Well, organisms actually respond in 4 primary ways. Some animals, like birds and mammals, they regulate their internal conditions. Humans maintain a body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. In summer, we sweat and evaporation cools us down. So in winter, we shiver because, well, muscle movement actually generates heat. This ability is called homeostasis. But plants just can't regulate their internal temperature. Around 99% of animals, and honestly, all plants are conformers, which means they do not regulate their internal conditions. So their body temperature or, osmotic balance actually changes with the environment. You might wonder, why don't they just evolve into regulators? Well, it's because regulation is pretty energy intensive. Small animals, they lose heat much faster due to a higher surface area to volume ratio. That's exactly why very small animals like hummingbirds, for example, aren't found in polar regions. Some organisms, they regulate their internal environment only over a limited range. But if things go beyond that, they just conform to the surroundings. Many animals actually migrate to avoid unfavorable conditions. Just like how humans travel from hot cities to cool hill stations in summer, birds migrate across continents too. So, every winter, birds actually fly all the way from Siberia to Kyoladeo National Park in Rajasthan just to escape the extreme cold out there. Organisms may temporarily suspend their life processes to survive during tough times. For example, bacteria and fungi form spores. Plants use seeds to remain dormant when stressed. Bears hibernate, snails and fish estivate during summer, and even zooplankton can enter diapause, which is like a resting stage. So this is called escaping in time. Adaptations? Well, they are features, structural, physiological, or behavioral, that improve survival and reproduction. Let's look at some fascinating examples. Take the kangaroo rat, a desert rodent, for instance. It never drinks water. Instead, it gets water from fat metabolism and produces highly concentrated urine. So, desert plants, they've got some really cool adaptations. They usually have a thick cuticle, sunken stomata, and they use CAM photosynthesis to survive those harsh conditions. For instance, Opuntia doesn't even have leaves. Instead, photosynthesis takes place in its stem. Allen's rule is pretty interesting. Animals living in cold climates tend to have shorter ears and limbs, which helps them reduce heat loss. Like, a good example would be Arctic foxes. Polar seals, on the other hand, have this really thick layer of blubber that helps them retain heat and survive in those freezing temperatures. So, at high altitudes like Leh or Rohtang Pass, the oxygen levels actually drop quite a bit. Our bodies, adapt by increasing the red blood cell count, upping the breathing rate, and also by adjusting the hemoglobin to help us cope. Deep-sea organisms, on the other hand, tolerate extreme pressure and really low temperatures by using these specialized enzymes that help them survive in such harsh conditions. And desert lizards, well, They use behavioral adaptation. They bask in the sunlight when it's cold, hide in the shade when it's hot, and even burrow into the ground whenever they need to. Pretty smart, right? So, every organism, whether it's a cactus, a lizard, a whale, or even a tiny microbe, is actually a product of like millions of years of adaptation and survival. Nature doesn't just allow life to exist, it sculpts it, helping each species find its place, its role, its niche. Understanding this makes us appreciate the diversity and beauty of life even more. If this video helped you understand how organisms interact with their environment, then do support us. Your one like, share, and subscribe will help us create more valuable content. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next episode of Knowledge Chronicle.